Welcome to the 25th Hour podcast, where successful business owners share their strategies to help them stay in control of their day. I'm your host, Lisa Curley Malice, and today's guest is Elena Sonnino. And oh my goodness, wait until you listen to the stuff that Elena shares with us. She is a certified life coach, and her view on time and how she chooses to use her time and the lens in which she looks through when making choices about what's on her to-do list and what is not, and all of that is really, really cool. So grab a cup of tea, sit back, and listen in. Welcome, Elena. I am super, super excited to talk
Lisa,
today.
I'm so excited too.
No. So we met not even a year ago.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Thank you, pandemic. Thank you.
Right?
2020.
Because I feel like we may not have met had it not been the fact that I was sourcing virtual speakers for a client of mine who almost always does in-person local speakers. So, yay. Once again, the silver lining to that very dark pandemic cloud.
Yes. Yes,
And
to all of that.
right? I know. So the burning question for today. It is so easy to get to the end of the day and look back and say, I wonder where the day went. What are some of the things that you do to help make sure that doesn't happen?
Oh, yes. The one, for me, it all boils down to kind of one question, and it's why. Right? If I think about my day and how I spend my time, if that time is spent focused on a sense of why, a sense of purpose, then when I get to that bedtime moment or when I close up shop at my desk and then walk down the hall to my kitchen, if I was purposeful, the time passing feels fulfilling. If I was aimless and wandering and mindless, then I get to that. I'm like, where did it go? But to me, it all boils down to this question of why. Why am I doing something? Why is this important? Why does it matter? And I'll share with you. So I've told this story and I still have yet to time myself. I may just have to do this week. I'm somebody who doesn't love to be late, right? If I'm late, like if I'm on time, I'm late.
Late, exactly.
And so years ago, I remember I was driving places and, when we did that, and I'd have to get gas. The gas light would come on and I'd be thinking, oh, I can't stop and get gas, because if I stop and get gas, then I might possibly run into traffic and I might possibly be late, right? All the possible scenarios. So there's this overthinking and like what if thinking that starts to happen. And I realized, wait a minute, the car needs fuel for me to get to point X. And it actually takes so much less time to just get the gas than to think about whether or not I'm going to get the gas. Right. So there's a few things. So there's a sense of why. There's this sense of filling up on the things that are most important first, the things that will fill me, that then help propel me to do all the other things. Right. So it's that sense of filling up on me, filling up on things that feel purposeful, as opposed to the shoulds or the assumptions. So the other story that I love to tell is my daughter's now almost 17, though she would tell you that she turns 18 next year. And I'm like, what do you mean you turned 18 next year? Well, I said, that's true, but you turned 17 first. So talk about 25th hour. She's like giving herself an extra year all in one time. So, but when she was smaller, I used to say no a lot to evening events because that family dinner time was something that I held really sacred. My dad was a neurosurgeon, he's a retired neurosurgeon. And so we tried to eat at home together as much as possible, but he was gone a lot. And so to me, family dinner time, sacred. And then I started realizing family dinner time, okay, we're together at the table, but right before and right after and kind of during, we're either bickering or she's doing homework or doing this and I'm scrambling around and we're in all the places. And so it suddenly dawned on me that maybe it wasn't the time that I needed to prioritize, but the quality of the moment, right? So to get to that place where I'm like, oh, what did I do with my day? Filling up on me, knowing why something is important. And thirdly, this piece of making sure that the quality of that moment, that I'm present with that moment. Does that make
So
sense?
it absolutely does. So we're going to dig into all those pieces a little bit more. So let's start there and work backwards. How do you, or what are some of the strategies that you use to help you stay present in the moment, to make it a quality moment?
So for me, it's about experiencing things through my senses. So as much as I can, being present in my body, allowing myself to feel things, allowing my heart to be touched or stirred. Sounds, right now, the sounds of birds. Over this last year, I feel like we're all hearing birds so much more, not just in our head, but that idea. So smelling things, right? Hugs, touch. So that importance of the sensory moment helps me be present. The other thing too is kind of releasing judgment around the moments that were not present, because I'll be honest, there's a lot of moments where my teenager has to say, Mama, like, put your phone down. You're not being very present. And she's right. She's not wrong. But it's saying, okay, fine. So I wasn't present in that moment, but in this moment. So understanding that we can be present in moments. It's not necessarily about an entire hour, or right, that it's savoring. I think about tea when it steeps. It only takes 3 to 5 minutes, right? So it's really steeping in those little micro moments. So for me, that's the practice of like staying present in those micro moments through my senses as much as possible. That's the number one way that I stay present.
And so what clues you in? So you said, one is your daughter's like, hey, Ma, you're not present, put the phone down. Mm-hmm. What are some other ways that you might notice that you're not in the moment?
Oh yeah, overthinking. So when I start thinking about what's going to happen several hours from now or tomorrow or several days or what happened 3 days ago, right? When my brain is spiraling, which our brains do a lot, that's one of the red flags for me of, okay, where am I right now? Because I'm not here. Right? So just noticing where my brain has leapt to fast forwarding or rewinding and bringing myself back. And then maybe noticing, what am I making something mean? Right? So I can think about that if I choose to, but that's usually one place where I can notice, oh, all right, like I've gone either forward or back, come back to right now. What does this mean right now? So that's one way. The other thing that I think helps me, that I notice pulls me out, is this sense of what ifing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that kind of goes to overthinking, but this what if, well, what if I do this? Or what if I do this? And so almost that analysis, over-analysis paralysis. And frankly, if we're talking about time management, you can spend more time in what if. And so if you just did the thing and experimented and decided, I'll just be curious. So curiosity is kind of my other antidote, I guess, to help bring me back into the moment of, okay, so where can I be curious? Release judgment and get curious instead.
I love this. All right, so let's talk about, you said filling up on you and filling up on purpose.
Yeah.
So pick one of those two, dealer's choice, and expand a little bit more.
Yeah. So to me, they kind of go together, but filling up on you, right? I think so many of the women that I work with think that to prioritize themselves, you need more time. You need to do X, Y, and Z. And there are certain things that we like to do for ourselves that take time. And yet there are ways to fill ourselves up that don't require extra things on our to-do list, right? So I'll give you an example. These are my great-grandmother's pearls. I have been wearing them pretty much every day, let's say 90% of the days since mid-February. And all because I decided one morning, so one of my favorite ways to fill up on me is this question, what would feel delicious? So what would feel delicious today? What would feel delicious right now? And because I just needed to fill up on me. I needed to nurture and nourish me. And so there I was, beginning of my day, getting dressed, and I went wearing a piece of jewelry. And I'm thinking, why? Like, why would I wear a piece of jewelry right now? Right. And then of course, why not is the answer. And so I opened my drawer and there's this red velvet bag in the drawer. And I remember thinking, and I held this red velvet bag in my hands and I knew it was my great grandmother's pearls. And I remember I heard my mom's voice in my head, which is a dangerous thing. And she reminded me, this is when I was younger, that pearls need to be worn to keep their luster.
Luster, yep. I remember my grandmother's telling me that.
And so I thought, oh, okay. So I put them on. And then this interesting thing happened. I put them on. And it was like I was channeling my great grandmother and then my grandmother. And now I touch them all the time. And I've worn them. I then kind of gave myself an experiment. I'm going to wear them every day in March. And then I kept wearing them. So it's filling up on me in this way that doesn't take extra time and just makes me feel good, right? I can be wearing a sweatshirt and yoga pants, but if I put the pearls on, it's this connection to, somebody in my family who was this great role model, and they make me feel good. And there's so many ways that is good for me and helps me then show up for the rest of my day. So that idea of filling up on us, I think, this reminder that it doesn't have to take a lot of time, and it's just this little thing. Because do you like to garden?
I do.
All right. So when you have left a plant for a period of time and haven't watered it, and then you give it water and you're like, oh, I should give it extra water because I haven't watered it. And then what happens? All the water comes out right away, right? The roots don't absorb any of it because it's just so dry. So to me, this idea of filling up on us first is that like constant trickle of water, of hydration, of nourishment, of whatever you want to call it, of good stuff, so that then we can show up as our best self in our lives, for our family, in our work, for all the people. So that's the piece. And that contributes to the why. It's that sense, to me, it then helps us be more intentional and purposeful in our day and think about the shoulds rather than the things that are really important. So sometimes I think about, are you prioritizing time or are you prioritizing the why of something, right? The purpose. And so that helps me do that because it helps me be in that place of me instead of should.
Right. Well, so give us another example of filling up on me that doesn't take time.
Right. Filling up on you, not taking time, right? Brushing your teeth, right? Something we all do. So thinking about when you're brushing your teeth, something you're grateful for, right? And gratitude, I have a client who's like, oh, don't gratitude me. And I'm like, okay, fine. Why not? Right? Or even the question, what's working? Right? We are so focused on all the things that aren't working and on all the stress, and there's a lot of it, but you brush your teeth anyway. So why not take that moment and have it be something that fills you rather than depletes you, right? Instead of going through the to-do list, for instance. The other thing sometimes when brushing your teeth is asking yourself the question, how do I want to feel when I go to sleep tonight? Right? Assuming that we brush our teeth in the morning and then again at night. So it becomes this really great check-in, check-out kind of moment.
Mm-hmm.
How do I want to, and then you can think about, all right, I want to feel proud, or I want to feel strong or accomplished, whatever it is. And then you just pause for a moment and you fill up on the possibility of that for a moment. So that's another way. There are lots. I mean, frankly, even sometimes standing at the window or looking out the window and just letting yourself be filled by whatever it is you see. Music is another of my favorite ways to fill up. I remember like making cassette tapes when I was
right.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Of all the moods for the all the things. And so why not? So I have a playlist for just about every mood. Mm-hmm. So, I'll play it. And sometimes when I'm sitting at my desk, right. So even in those in-between moments, so in between phone calls, I'll put on a song and I have, scratch paper at my desk and I'll just doodle for the length of a song. we have that time anyway, right? So it's not adding to our to-do list. It's taking those little chunks of moments and tapping in to us and what would light us up or just fill us. Light us up can feel a little bit overwhelming. That can feel like a big thing. So just filling you up, just a drop at a time.
Ooh, I'm loving this. And I think the question that I ask myself to go along with your questions is I'll ask, how can it get even better than this? And not in a like negative way, but in a positive, like, and then I just sit there and I listen. And so like yesterday, the answer was get outside and get in the sun. I'd been in my office all day. It was almost 80 here in Cleveland in April, which is a rarity. And I was like, get out. And today I'm like, okay, how can it get even better than this today? And I was like, take a look at a contract before, from a vendor that I'm going to do business with, go through it one more time and just make sure you feel comfortable with all the clauses.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so it's like the answer varies, but is the taking the time or
it's
the moment, just taking the moment.
And it's the intentionality behind it, right? Doing it because it feels important rather than it being a should. And sometimes it is a should. We can't get away from shoulds entirely.
Right.
I mean, I wish, but to me, it's that sense of making a decision or choosing something from a place of empowerment and discernment rather than reactivity. Yeah. So I have a client who says her new practice is before she gets out of bed, she takes 3 breaths, right? Doesn't really add to her to-do list. And she makes her bed, which sounds like a to-do, but actually it's creating this sense of it's a transition. And her comment was that when she does that, she feels like she can choose how to start her day rather than immediately the alarm going off and reacting to it.
Exactly. It's proactive versus reactive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So we did quality of your moment, filling up you, and now filling up your purpose.
So the filling up the purpose is really interesting because we do the things we do for a reason. And if there isn't a reason, that perhaps gives us information that maybe we shouldn't be doing what we were doing, right?
Exactly.
So it's coming back to the reason. So before we started recording, we were talking about, I had this tech kind of thing happen last week and I was really frustrated. And I realized that I was trying to move this thing forward because I had said I was going to, because I had put it on the calendar in my business plan for the quarter, right? It was part of the schedule. And then I started to think, wait a minute, this doesn't actually feel at all how I want it to feel. And I'm not even sure why I'm doing this right now. Right? Is this really important? So thinking about the purpose of it rather than armoring up, get through it at all costs. So sometimes pulling back and just saying, what's important about this? Why am I doing this? There's always, I think we carry with us a sense of why that's ours. And the more we can align ourselves or make sure that we are in connection with that, the better. And then that ripples out to the why of everything else. But it's that sense of why does this matter? Right? Or why doesn't it matter? And so that sense of purpose, right? From the big why questions to even the little itty bitty whys, right? Of why am I making such a big deal about family dinner? I mean, with a teenager in the house, I'm learning lessons all the time about why and the things that matter and the things that don't. And it's just this reminder, I think, that shows up in so many parts of our day, in our businesses, in our lives. And so always coming back to that, okay, why? Why am I doing this? And that can help us discern. I think about, like, if I look at my to-do list, I always start with the things that I know what the purpose is, and that purpose is connected to my deep sense of purpose. And those are the things I do first. Those are my, every day I look at, the 3 things that matter most. Anything beyond that is bonus.
Right. Absolutely.
And those 3 things have to, for me, be connected to either my core values or my deep sense of purpose and mission. And if they're not, then they're not on that top 3.
Right. One of the things that I'll share with clients is when you look at something on your list, ask yourself, what goal does this directly support?
Yeah.
I said, because if you ask yourself, is this in alignment with my goals? It's very easy to be like, oh yeah, of course. But when you say what goal or what value or what sense of purpose does this action directly support, you have to pause and name it. And then to your point, my next thing is, if you can't name it, we need to have a serious conversation about why it's on your list.
Right.
Like, you don't get away. You don't get to not name it and then slide away. Like, that's a conversation.
Yeah.
Around, do we need to add a goal? Or does this need to move off the list?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't get to hang out there without being attached to something.
Yeah. Especially if it hangs out there and then it creates angst.
Exactly.
Right?
Because
that's the other thing. Yeah.
Right? Because when they're not connected, so many times it just rolls over and it rolls over and it rolls over. And then it's that, I can't believe I didn't get it done. And I should have, could have, would have, like that whole bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am, right, I'm somebody who kind of lives my core values, and my core values are curiosity, freedom, belonging, commitment, and delight. I was like, there's another C. What's the other C? I said it out of the order that I usually say. And so to me, I think about those every single week in relation to, so I, at the beginning of the week, think about my intention. How do I want to feel at the end of the week? So the other interesting thing when I think about purpose is, we're so goal driven, and I've been a goal driven, goal setter person all my life, until I realized that, wait a minute, the goal is the finish line. There's this whole thing along the way.
In the middle.
In the middle, right? And so I need to know how it's going to feel. That way I can practice feeling it along the way, not just when I get there. Because the other thing that happened is I'd get there and be like, oh, that doesn't actually feel like I thought it was going to.
No. Right? Or even worse, you get there and don't even recognize you're there, and you keep moving the goalposts.
Oh, perpetually unsatisfied.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%, right? So I think about my intention, and that's usually like a feeling, word, an emotion, something. And then I think about my core values and how am I going to nurture my intention with my core values, right? So how is commitment going to play into my week? Well, maybe it's showing up for my morning practices, or making the calls I said I was going to make, or writing the things, whatever it is. Belonging, thinking about those things. And so I prioritize those in terms of the why to help me get to the purpose along the way. And I find that my schedule ends up having less on it. I put fewer things on my to-do list because I'm super clear about what matters and what doesn't. And if it doesn't even remotely impact my core values, probably I don't need to do it. Now, I wish that was 100% true, but I'm working in that direction.
Right.
I mean, yes. Totally honest, right? Because we're human.
Yes. Well, absolutely. And I love that rule of 3. These are the 3 things for today. Anything else is a bonus. This is how I want to feel, why I'm doing these 3 things.
Yeah. And it's interesting to that point of kind of the perpetually unsatisfied, right? I would have caught myself being like, I've done my things. I should add something, right? And then I have to really be thoughtful and present and all of these things and think about, okay, why? Right? Is there something that feels really compelling or delicious or delightful to do? Or could I go play? Right? Yeah. Might I fill up in some other way and not have to just fill my time?
Right. Exactly. I just yesterday had a conversation with a client, and she said, I'm feeling guilty because I'm getting like this stuff done and I'm not filling up my work hours. And I just looked at her and I said, congratulations. She goes, what do you mean? I said, we've been working for 3 months to get to this place where you're able to produce and get your big picture things done within your quote unquote work day, and not at night, and not, sneaking away from the kids and on the weekends. I'm like, we're there. Like, this is what we've been working towards. This is a good thing. But there's always that, not always, but many people have that challenge around busy means, busy is the value.
Successful, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, and for so long that had been her mindset. And now she's in that place where she has space and she's not yet sure what she wants to do with it.
Yeah. And to that point, right? To me, the thing that helps me those days where I move through my stuff are usually the days where I've been even more intentional about filling up on me in the morning, right? They're the days that I've done my workout, or I've spent time outside, or I've journaled, or I've, meditated, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be long, but just that if I have filled up on me, if I'm functioning from that place of full, the rest moves, everything else is more seamless and more fun, and who knows what comes out of it, right?
Right.
So, yes. So they're also intertwined practices.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah.
Who do you serve? What do you do?
So I help women feel more peace, more joy, and more connected in their lives. And I do that by helping them be more present, more curious, and embodying self-love. Because these are women who for a long time have been taking care of everybody else. They've not just put themselves last, they either haven't felt worthy, or they've thought, oh, well, I've tried before and I things don't stick, right? And so I help them really kind of reconnect to their wants and needs. One of my clients recently said, I feel like I'm alive again. Like I'm awake in my life and actually enjoying it. And little things like listening to the birds or her morning cup of tea, right? It's those types of things. And so it's so delightful to help women realize that they deserve to enjoy the lives that they've created for themselves. Because so many of us work so hard to create all these things and then we don't ever enjoy it.
Enjoy them. Right?
It's right here. We've created it and we're just so to me, that's my great honor and delight. And most of the work that I do is in groups. So because I was a classroom teacher for 12 years, and to me, there's me as a coach, and I love one-on-one work. And actually, I really love it in tandem with group work. But when I'm asking a great question of a group and you're having your reaction and somebody else is having, and then they're sharing, then there's this magical thing that happens in the Zoom room or in the in-person room that I can never fully anticipate, but I love working with that. And because there's a sense of like aliveness to that.
Right, absolutely. I feel like that group experience, so many times you finish it and you're like, okay, this is what they mean by 1 + 1 = 3.
100%.
Yeah,
yes.
Because there's there's something to be said for one-on-one coaching, like you just shared. Yeah. And it's difficult to replicate that piece that you get from a well-run, committed group.
Absolutely. And what I found is that a lot of the women that I work with that come into these groups come in for themselves and then they continue for the group.
Yes.
And they're more accountable to themselves, to one another. They're supporting one another. And so I have a 6-month group and then a 7-week group. And it's just so interesting to see kind of how all that fits together. And then I lead retreats. And in this last year, they've been virtual. They'll continue. I've actually had so much fun with virtual retreats that I will continue to have those a few times a year. And next year, I'm leading my first international retreat. So we're going to Mexico in January.
Oh, fun. So yeah. That sounds cool. And I love the idea of a virtual retreat too.
Yeah. It's been interesting because I had clients who when I was going to do an in-person event for 2020, and then clearly that didn't happen. And I thought before I moved it virtually automatically, I really thought about why, right? What's important at that? Am I just doing this because it's on the business plan and I really, really thought about it. And then I surveyed my clients and people who had been on an in-person retreat with me, people who had been in groups, who had done one-on-one, and they loved the idea, but they gave me some good feedback. And then a few of them were like, yeah, 2 days, I don't know, 2 days is a long time. Or awesome, give me breaks. But if you're going to give me breaks, you better text me because I'm going to go do my life, which I appreciate that hour to go do that, but I'm going to forget.
Right.
So I did all those things. And at the end, when I asked for feedback, one of the ones who had said, oh, 2 days, that's a lot of time on Zoom, was like, I don't know how you did it, but it felt like we were shoulder to shoulder around the fire. And to me, that was,
that's the best compliment.
The best thing ever. And I include yoga. I teach yin yoga as a part of everything that I do. And I make sure it kind of brought out the teacher in me in terms of really thinking about best practices and engagement. And so there's the group time, there's one-on-one time. I send packages of tea, so we all have our morning tea together, and whatever it might be. And so it's as close as you can get. And in some ways, I kind of like it better. I mean, I love the in-person, but there are things that we get to do that I'm like, I don't know that it would be the same.
Exactly. In for both experiences, there are things you just can't replicate virtually, and there are things virtually that you can't replicate in person.
Yeah.
All right, so let's flip the focus a smidgen to the 25th hour. How do you like to spend that extra hour that you can create, if you will, each day when you're able to live purposefully?
When I'm able to live purposefully and have that 25th hour, it is spent in connection. And in connection might mean snuggling with my dog and my husband and my daughter, or it might mean in my garden, connecting with my plants. But it's the sense, and actually really being outside is, if we have this little couchy thing outside that we got last year, and it's big enough for all of us, for all the 3 humans and the dog. And to me, whether it's day or night, just that sense of being there together with the birds and the animals and the human connection and the touch, that's how I'd spend that 25th hour. And that fills me up and propels me to all the things. The other ways that sometimes I spend it are in my infrared sauna and reading. I have returned to my great love of reading, which I did as a child. And, I was the kid who my dad would come in at bedtime and be like, Elena, turn out the light. Yeah, I know. And I'd keep reading. And I'm back to that now. So I sneak in reading and take that time to read. So those are the things that come up for me, that 25th hour when I'm living really with purpose. They're things that fill me up. They're not to-dos, they're just moments of delight and connection.
To your point about reading, that was the punishment for me when I was younger, is they would send me to my room and take away my books. Because I would be happy to be sent to my room. And to read. Put me, please, send me to my room and let me read uninterrupted for hours. And so that was the punishment, and I would be sent to my room, but I could not have any books. Horrible punishment. Absolutely.
Horrible punishment.
That one ranked right up there was when I fought with my sister and they made us sit on the step on our front porch and hold hands. Those were the 2 worst punishments from my childhood.
I mean, as parents, we do the very best that we can at any given moment, but
I know. So now, any chance, just like you, any chance I have to read, I am. And I always say, it's because of all those times I was deprived of books when I was growing up.
Well, so you'll laugh. So I used to ask a lot of questions. I still ask a lot of questions, let's be honest. But when my parents would get tired of my questions, they sent me to the Encyclopedia Britannica, of which we had 2 shelves right on a bookcase, and I had to do a report. I'd have to write an essay and write a report on it. So I had to write a report. I remember writing a report on the state of New York, on cotton, I think on the Statue of Liberty, these random things. And it's amazing that I still like to learn, to your point, right? Because of, they sent me to read the Encyclopedia Britannica.
As a punishment, yes. You have to go learn. Your punishment is you must learn.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna giggle about that all day, because one of my grandkids is constantly asking questions. So right when you said that, I was like, oh, maybe here's a solution. And I was like, oh yeah, that's probably
not that one. Not that one.
Darn it, go still look for another one. Maybe it's more filling up of me, so I have the patience for the 50th, 60th, 70th question in the hour. So maybe that's more what it is.
Yes.
Probably.
I mean, if I had a good answer, I have a daughter who, is like me. And in fact, she has said, she's like, you've always told me that you want me to be thoughtful and you want me to be an independent thinker and you want me to ask questions. Why are you getting frustrated? I'm like, I know, I can't give you a good answer, but.
Right, exactly. Anything else you would like to share with our listeners?
I would love to invite the listeners to go check out this 3-day Wonder Effect toolkit that I created. That is just so much fun. It's 3 days, 3 videos, less than 5 minutes a day to just fill up on wonder to help you be more present, more curious, and embody self-love. And if you practice these things for 3 days, you'll feel more peace and more joy and more connected in your life. So I would love to invite people to go check out the Wonder Effect toolkit.
I love it. And as soon as we are done, I'm going to go check it out. So we will put the link in the show notes. And I want to thank you so much for your time today. This is so much fun. I'm glad we were able to reconnect.
Thank you for having me. It's been delightful and an honor. So thank you so, so much. It's always fabulous to chat with you.
Thanks for listening. I'm curious, what's your biggest takeaway or aha moment? What are you going to do differently after listening to this podcast? Shoot me an email at lisa@impactivestrategies.com. I'll share my biggest takeaway from this was the idea of filling up me without taking a lot of time. So I'm going to try out that whole doing some gratitude while I'm brushing my teeth thing. I'd love to know your piece. And exciting time over here at Impactive Strategies. The Delegate Like a Pro in 28 days is open. Registration's open. If you know that moving things off your to-do list and onto someone else's is the way that you want to go in order to grow your business and have more time for your 25th hour, go to delegatelakeapro.com and register for our next class.